Hi, everyone. Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on the start of your Tuesday morning. Glad you're with us for Second Cup. Thank you so much for weighing in, as you always do. If you've got something to say, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
We got a lot to talk about today, Cuppies. You're going to like this one. We start with a guest, then we move into some hot topics. Big day.
So first and foremost, we want to bring in our friend Pat Bailey from the Business Council. He's here with us this morning to talk about this brand new competition that's happening all across New York State to find the coolest things made in New York, highlighting innovation and manufacturing statewide. All right, Pat, good morning to you. Glad you're with us to start the day. Give us an idea about what this competition's about.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me. Well, let's start with the Business Council. We are essentially the statewide chamber of commerce. We have about 3,300 businesses who are members of ours, and we lobby in Albany on behalf of a better business climate. We also serve as kind of the de facto statewide manufacturers association. So we do a lot of manufacturing work as well. So I'm not going to lie, we stole this idea from the state of Wisconsin, who I believe started it now 6 years ago, and it was really successful for them. It was a marketing piece, not only for their chamber, but certainly for their membership and all their manufacturers. And it caught fire. And it was a great way to promote manufacturing across their state. So we said, let's try it here. We have such a rich manufacturing history. You're looking at B-roll right now. That's Mentholatum out in Orchard Park. We were there last year on our bus tour trip. Cool. As I said, we have about 3,300 members. About 270 of them are manufacturers. And the most concentration of manufacturers, at least our membership, is in Western New York. And we define that as Rochester. But if you went down micro even more, it would be Buffalo, certainly having the most members, our members of manufacturing.
Okay, so Pat, the coolest thing that's made in how do we define that? How is something the coolest?
Well, so it's going to be all about the public. So the application process opened yesterday, and you don't have to be a member of the Business Council. Any manufacturer is welcome to apply. So the application process will be open for 1 month for them, and then we'll get the public involved. The public is going to determine this whole thing. They're going to determine we're going to take all the applications, and the top 16 vote getters, again, from the public, will move on to the bracket style competition. And then the public will determine each week what the coolest thing is when things are bracketed next to each other, much like the Sweet 16 in the NCAA. So it's all up to the public what they think's cool. Do they think it's Ford Gum in Akron who makes Big League Chew? Certainly, I'm not going to say they're going to get my vote, but I loved Big League Chew growing up as a kid. Is it wing sauce that Dust makes or that Anchor Bar makes? That certainly is eligible to be part of it. Or is it, Siri's Voice, which is manufactured outside of Utica? Those little trees, air fresheners up in Watertown, is it those? A lot of cool things are made in this state that I think people don't realize.
We're talking about other cool things. Lactalis is based here in Buffalo. They make Sorrento cheese. Milkbone made here in Buffalo. We could also go on to Rosina
Cheerios.
We could go on to Cheerios. Exactly. There are so many different things. So, Pat, how can I start to vote, or how can I get involved in this once you get that bracket together?
Yeah, July 29th is when the public's really going to get involved. And we're really, for us, it's kind of a two-pronged marketing approach. Number one is getting the membership out there, letting the businesses know that this is going to happen. So really for the last month, we've been letting our membership know, hey, this is coming up. Get ready to apply. We really want your participation. We're also working with local and regional chambers across the state. The partnership, the Buffalo Partnership, Buffalo Niagara Partnership, is a close friend of the Business Councils, and we work all the time together. So we're using our local and regional chambers to also get the word out so they can tell their members who may not be members of ours to apply. And then once it's open, we'll really start a push out there to let the general public know, hey, this is out there and we need your help to determine it. And really when this was successful in Wisconsin was when the businesses themselves really got into it and said, hey, here's my employee, told their employees, hey, go vote. Tell your friends and family, go vote. And it really caught on from there. So we're really taking a playbook from them and hoping that that is going to happen here in New York.
Yeah, I could totally see that, like little marketing campaigns from the different businesses, and there's a little healthy competition, which I always like too.
Sure.
You know, Pat, this is really interesting, and I have to imagine this isn't just great for the winner. When we talk about healthy competition and kind of marketing your business,
Yeah.
probably people are going to take a look at this bracket and think, "I didn't know about that.
Right.
I
This
didn't
was
know
made
about
in
that."
Western
Right.
New York, or this was even made in New York.
Yeah, that's really the goal here, is to get the public and frankly some in the legislature to understand just how important not only manufacturing is, that they provide jobs, they really drive the economy. Buffalo has obviously a strong economy because there's a lot of business in Buffalo. But if you look at like Fancher Chair that's down in Chautauqua County, I went to visit it. I felt like it took me 3 days to drive there from Albany. There's not a lot in that region, but they employ, I think, around was it 40 or 50 people. And that's the same throughout a lot of the pockets of New York State. We really want to highlight what manufacturers are doing and the fact that they employ these people and that they really drive the economy, specifically in those small pockets of the areas of the state that don't have a lot of other business going on. Manufacturing, $75 billion in goods throughout the state is manufactured each year. Another $69 billion of that is really shipped out. So every day, products made in New York are being used all around the world, frankly. The average salary in New York State, $88,000 if you work in a manufacturing facility. So it is a strong, vibrant, still vibrant, if you will, sector of New York. But certainly a lot of it has left. In parts of Albany out here, Amsterdam and Gloversville, there's just decrepit buildings that are falling down that were once thriving manufacturing places. And frankly, it's sad to see.
This is so cool, Pat. So once this all gets started, you'll have to come back on. You'll have to share with us who's in the bracket, and we'll have to have the public vote on this.
I really appreciate you guys having me on. I would love to come back.
Pat, you're the best. We appreciate you. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Pat.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Oh, that's a good guess. He knows how to wrap up an interview.
Okay,
wait, really quick. As he's talking about how manufacturing supports like these smaller little towns and smaller different areas, are we not seeing that from all the people who are commenting, like Olean and Cutco? Like
the Kazoo.
Perfect examples.
I mean, there is so much made here in Western New York alone compared to other parts of the state. And so if we could get Western New York on the statewide map.
You know what we should do when this bracket comes out? Like, we should get all the cool Western New York stuff and like get it up here for a second cup.
That's a great idea.
Like, let's
Weber's mustard. Yes.
Oh my God, I love Weber's mustard.
Salem's hot dog.
Oh my God, I love Weber's mustard on a Salem's hot dog. It's so
you
good.
Can't beat that. I mean, like, this is Western New York's game to lose, right? I mean, we are up there.
We're cutting it with a Cutco knife.
Come on. Pat Bailey, by the way, used to be a reporter out in Utica. WKTV. Pat Bailey is where I first met Pat Bailey.
Pat's like, that was a former life, but thank you for reminding me.
They're saying that they can't hear me very well, and I don't know what's going on. My microphone is on.
Finally, we're having microphone problems with Ed and not me.
Let me switch over to my tie here. Oh, Buffalo Games. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh, Buffalo Games is so cool. I think is that the place over like on Audubon Parkway?
They make puzzles.
Or is it the place off over near all the radio stations? There's one downtown. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They make the puzzles, they make the cool stuff.
Yep.
There's like, I know my friend worked for one of them. I think there's two here also.
Needless to say, this is going to be huge for Western New York. So we'll have to have Pat back on with us.
I really do want to get the product thing going too.
Like,
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Ogden Street, that's what I was thinking. Sorry.
Angola Beach was so relaxing yesterday, Lori says. Yeah, the weather was gorgeous yesterday, was it not? And here we are today. We're looking at 80s, mid 80s, which is going to be a great day for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some rain coming this weekend and tomorrow.
And a little rain today, possibly, but like nothing big.
Yeah,
like Aaron says, coming through, just like pause walking the dog for a hot second.
Okay, this is a huge deal that just came out. And I feel like it's really important that we address this, and really important that we as a community kind of dissect what's going on here. Yesterday on Second Cup, and all week we've been telling you about this deadly shooting that happened on Dominion on Buffalo's east side, blocks away from Villa Maria College. This 3-year-old shot and killed at a graduation party, his 7-year-old sister hurt. What's so interesting to me today, and I told you this at the end of the show about 6:55 this morning, that the U.S. Surgeon General has now come out with this brand new report saying that there is a public health crisis when it comes to gun violence in our nation. And I've been going through this for the last 20 minutes or so, and it's a 40-page report. But of the things that I pulled out, there was one thing in particular that really stuck out to me. And this is kind of what I was talking about yesterday. The impact on families. And so I just want to read you a couple of excerpts that I thought were really interesting here. And this is the report here. I'm still going through it. Listen to this. The collective toll of firearm violence exposure in the U.S. is what this is called. Specifically, childhood exposure to witnessing firearm-related incidents has been associated with higher odds of adolescent handgun carrying.
Right. So it is part of your life, kind of.
And it's this cycle of violence that perpetuates itself day in and day out. And so, we hear these things like from people who don't live in these communities, like, okay, just pull yourself up from the bootstraps and get out of there. That is so much easier said than done. And listen to it, it continues. Research demonstrates that siblings of children, so we're talking, for instance, this 7-year-old girl who saw her brother get shot and killed. Research demonstrates that siblings of children and adolescents who died from firearm injury exhibited a 2.3-fold increase in psychiatric disorders. Mothers exhibited a 3.5-fold increase, and fathers a 5.3-fold increase. Specifically, as we continue to go on about family members of survivors, there was a 12% increase in psychiatric disorders, including anxiety, mood disorders, psychosis, and other disorders among family members, including spouses, children, parents, and other dependents of individuals who survived a firearm injury.
Okay, so this is all from the Surgeon General, okay? And this is this big report, this big, really kind of like hopefully maybe a wake-up call. But the thing is, like, the Surgeon General's job is to kind of highlight what the big issues across the country are. For example, remember in the 80s when it became this huge thing about tobacco, right? And then all those warnings got put. Now, does that change a law for a person? Eventually we got dates and ages that you could buy certain things and things like that, right? Like little kids couldn't go pick up cigarettes for grandma and grandpa anymore. Remember how that kind of stuff used to happen? So we put dates and stuff on this. But like it's really the Surgeon General like highlights big health issues that we all need to look at. So I think the question is, what could come of this? And so when we were reading this, the one thing I thought was really interesting is, okay, here he said, like, listen, we know we need change. It's probably a multi-pronged approach. But here's something that he's like, maybe this could be a place where we start. The significant portion of homes in America that have unlocked and loaded weapons. In other words, weapons that aren't stored safely. If you have a gun, you legally have a gun, is it locked up?
Right.
Is it properly put away such that A, a child couldn't get their hands on it, but B, let's say someone never broke into your house and couldn't steal it and take it.
Lori, how are these kids getting these guns? Well, we don't know that it's kids getting guns. It's guns in general, it seems, is what the Surgeon General is saying.
And this, like, I liked that just because he said that is one place we could make a difference.
It's basic.
If we made that change, because there really are so many homes that don't have things locked up.
Robin says, how sad is it that you give a child a popsicle one minute and plan their funeral the next? It's heartbreakingly sad. And that's my point, right? And now, yesterday I was trying to explain in our morning meeting how this trauma cycle is so exacerbated, I guess, for lack of a better term, by this kind of problem. The trauma response. Okay, now somebody who survived is more likely to carry a handgun. Now the psychotic episodes continue.
Well, think about how like numb you come to this kind of stuff when you see it every single day. That's really sad and scary.
Anita says guns don't kill. It's the person pulling the trigger. Be a responsible gun owner. Right. Kelly says, I feel like the communities try to create change, but some community members don't want the change. People are stuck in their ways. And so listen to this. So this was an interesting graph that I also found in here. And it might be really hard to see, but there's this red line here. And the red line kind of goes up into 2022, and now learning that the number of children who are killed every single year are not losing their lives to anything other than gun violence.
Yeah, well, so it changed, right? It used to be car accidents, right? Was the leading cause of death of kids. And like a couple of years ago, that changed to gun violence.
4,603 children died in 2022.
And a lot of that, like when you think about, like, I bet there's a spike in what the one year that we had the Uvalde, you know what I mean? Like those we saw the, like, and Sandy Hook, you know what I mean? Like those mass shooting events that involve children really drove some of those numbers.
Well, and
too.
then they're even talking about mass shooting also. Mass shootings were part of this as well. And now I have to go back and find this because I was so wrapped up in this. And I really just think it's so fascinating.
So Robin has a question here. Are the guns used in violent shootings legally purchased or legally obtained? I wish I could see the demographics on that. I mean, I think we do know a lot of the time they're not, or they were legally obtained at one point, and then maybe they've gotten
lost or stolen.
Stolen, passed around, so then, we lose the legality there.
Oh, okay. Here's the mass shooting part. Mass homicides, 4 or more victims, had the highest proportion of female victims, the highest proportion of white victims, and the highest proportion of child victims. And listen to this. More than 3/4 of adults in the U.S. report experiencing stress from the possibility of a mass shooting. And 1 in 3 say fear prevents them from going to certain places or events.
I think anybody who has a child in school, because specifically we're talking about children here, right? We've just seen that happen too many times. So I think anybody who has a child in school or is a teacher has just always awareness in the back of their mind.
So this is interesting too. From Anita, mental illness has a huge part to play in this as well. It's a screening process. So interesting that you bring that up because that also was addressed here, basically saying that it really isn't necessarily a mental health issue. Let me go back and find that now because I thought that was really interesting as well. I'm telling you, I was like scouring this in the newsroom because I was, I'm really interested in this because I think that when you take a look at the impact it has on our community, it is wide-reaching. I have to go back and find this.
Anita says maybe there should be, excuse me, not Anita, Sherry. Maybe there should be mandatory therapy free of charge for victims, witnesses, and families of gun violence. And you know what? I think a lot of that probably does exist. You probably just have to find those resources. But I do think, like, we were just talking to a couple different groups that are doing different therapy and different kinds of sessions in the community right now after what happened this past weekend.
Okay, so here's what the Surgeon General says. Importantly, most people with serious mental illness are not violent against others. In fact, they go on to say in this report, people with serious mental illnesses are more likely to be victims of violence compared to the general population, even after controlling for demographic differences, Black, white, Latino, whatever. And then listen to this. An FBI report that examined active shooter incidents in the U.S. between 2000 and 2013 could only verify that 1/4 of perpetrators had been diagnosed with a mental illness of any kind.
Okay, that's
prior to the offense.
That's the more interesting part to me because, like, yes, I totally believe that so many people with mental illnesses are not violent, right? But that's the interesting part to me. When we look at these big events, we only see 25% of people.
1/4.
Interesting. Now, Sarah, you bring up a point that a lot of people have. Why don't other countries have this gun violence problem?
Also addressed in this report.
All countries have mental illnesses. Not all countries have elected officials that are loyal to gun lobbyists. Kelly says a mass shooter is more mental health shooting on the streets. It's more of a streets issue. Well, Kelly, I mean, that's now these numbers are showing only 25% of the time is that the case. Diane says legal gun owners are not killing kids. They're coming from illegal guns coming into our country. Or, I mean, honestly, Diane, also what we've seen is that
coming from state to state.
They're coming state to state. They're being stolen. They're being shared. Like, it's just, yeah.
Julie says this no bail stuff is a big problem. So earlier this morning, we had this report from the Buffalo Police Department that showed they made about 20 arrests in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the month. I think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was like 3 parts of June.
The early part of the month, we were talking about the number of guns seized and the number of arrests made. 9 of the 20 people who were arrested are still in jail. The majority of them were given bail. Many of them made bail and are out on the street. So they were arrested for having an illegal gun, allegedly, of course, and are back out there because they were given bail and they posted bail.
But if we think about that in perspective too, like that's in just this part of the month.
Right.
Like, so how many illegal guns are we taking? They said up until this point this year, wasn't it 300 or so illegal guns-ish that they've taken? And that's just in Buffalo. That's Buffalo police in Buffalo.
Now, look, the argument here about bail reform is that bail is set so that you are, if you're a flight risk. So if you're going to be taking off, or if they let you out of jail and you take off and don't return to court, that's why bail is set. Bail is not meant to necessarily keep you in jail.
Right. Although sometimes you see, oh, they're like $1 million, $2 million, you know, and we know that most people aren't going to hit that point.
So, if you can't afford to post bail, should you be sitting in jail?
Well, but the other problem is you've got people sitting in jail and then the jails get overcrowded and we really don't have the staff sometimes. We've seen like mandatory overtime get pushed in a lot of places. So like this.
It's a cycle.
And it's money too. Like
it's a business.
Yeah, it's hard.
Barbara says, but will these victims have access to free or affordable therapy going forward?
Isn't it just crazy when you start thinking about like, yes, we can say this, okay, no bail for these people. However, then the burden is put on the taxpayers, and the burden is, and I'm not saying like I feel either way, but the burden goes on the taxpayers, the burden goes on the people who have to staff the jail, work those mandatory overtimes. Now they're not home with their families. Like that,
they're burnt out.
It's just, there's so many aspects.
Well, and then it disproportionately affects the Black and brown communities compared to other communities. And so, there's a give and take here. So it's a very hard thing to litigate, and it's a very hard thing it's become political, really.
I mean, we could take this, like we could take this so many different directions because it's just so much.
And then Debbie says, bail is a way to oppress the poor.
I don't know.
Michael says black market guns in the U.S. are far less expensive and more available than anywhere else in the world.
Well.
And I believe Michael is in Australia, so he is able to speak on that moment for us.
All right, so we need a little levity. We're going to end this with some levity because we had a hot conversation about this one in our 5 a.m. hour. All right, moms, dads, if you have kids and they go to their friend's house to play.
So my kid goes to Katie's house. She's hosting the play date.
Let's call a spade a spade. My kid probably goes to Ed's house.
But anyways, my dog.
So like, kid goes to Ed's house. Ed's like, oh my gosh, I'm making you, like I said today, grilled cheese. I'm making you soup. You're sitting on the couch. You're playing with the chalk.
Going to the bathroom.
You're going to the bathroom. At the end of the day, I come to pick my kid up and Ed hands me a bill.
$15 from this mother. Thank you very much.
No, I'm not paying Ed to babysit. Let me be very clear. That'd be a terrible idea. No, I'm just kidding. But Ed hands me a bill. This is what apparently this one mom did to another mother after her kid was over there playing.
So listen to what this mother charged for. Chalk, $1. Applesauce, $1. Fruit, $1. Sat on the couch, wear and tear, $1. They broke a toy doll, $5. 3 juice boxes for $2. 3 trips to the bathroom for $3.
They should have cut down on the juice boxes. That would have cut down the trips to the
bathroom. And then yogurt for $1.
Like, so silly. Okay, and so Jeanette, I'm kind of with you. Well, she's decided this video isn't real. So the video is real. It's a TikTok video or an Instagram video, whatever. So like, this is a conversation that's out there. I'm kind of with Jeanette thinking that like, we're doing this just to generate conversation.
Okay, so listen to what this mom said though. She says, after putting this bill in front of this other mom's face, hopefully this makes it easier for us to do these play dates more often.
Oh yeah, sounds like so much fun.
Are you a wacko? I'm not going near you ever again.
Listen, I totally get it. If you're tight on cash, I'm not saying I'm ever going to charge somebody.
Sure.
But what I would say is like, hey, I'd love to have the kids over for lunch. Money's a little tight right now. Can you pack a lunch for Ed when he comes over? Yeah. And I'll take the kids on a picnic.
That's
like,
a great idea.
Just like there are ways to do it. Charging somebody it doesn't work for me.
I think that's really difficult too, like without having that kind of a conversation first.
Yes.
To then have that bill be presented. Like you were invoicing somebody for services.
The other thing too is like when you're presented with that bill, you have 2 choices, right? You're either going to be like, what is happening, and make a huge deal out of it, or you're just going to be like, I guess I just pay her $15 and we don't talk anymore. This is so weird. I don't know.
The friend's parent in the scenario paid the $15 and didn't say anything else to her.
Right, and then she was done.
She was like, see ya.
Now, like I said to Ed, the idea I like is if you've got a couple friends like this, then like you'll watch the kids one day, yes. I'll watch the kids one day, like then everybody gets a little bit, maybe the payback is that you get a little free time at the end of the day.
How about this? I like what Howard has to say. If you invite, you bear the expense. It's like asking friends to come over for dinner to pay for the meal.
Which we did see on social media too. I was telling Ed, I saw something like that too, where the woman was like marking down how many glasses of wine people had. Yikes.
That's nuts. Like my sister will come over for dinner. She'll come over for dinner, then we'll go out for ice cream. she paid for ice cream the other day. But like so often we'll go out, like I pay for drinks, or
Yeah.
I'll do this, or I'll do that. It's like a give and take. Like we make it up with each other.
Right. Well, my brother, everybody knows, lives in our downstairs apartment. So like if someone's going to the grocery store, there's always a group text, going to Dashes, and anybody need anything, you know? And unless I'm specifically asking for something that like is way out in left field, like, hey, can you pick up, something that's expensive? I'll always say like, do you want some money? And he's like, no, just give me next time. And then I go to the store and get the next stuff,
I love Anita. She kind of puts the bow tie at the end of this present. People are nuts. You're nuts.
I don't know. I just felt like that was maybe more of a conversation generator than anything. Like this mom was like, this is going to do it for my engagement. My engagement, maybe. I don't know. It was more of an engagement thing to me. I don't know.
We gotta go. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, guys.